And welcome back, Sports Radio 950, KJR. Dick Fain with you here on a Friday night. It is Varsity Football Live. We got our big game of the night coming up. In fact, quite a few big games of the night coming up, but particularly the number one team in the state, Bellevue, taking on Glacier Peak. We'll talk about that game at 10:05 with our friend Colin Caruso. We'll have our trip around the state as well. This is normally the segment where we talk to the great coaches in the state of Washington that are doing great things with their team, but we've got another person on the line that's not a coach but is still doing a lot of great things both in the past and in the present, and you will remember the name, or certainly will remember the movie. CollinsTuohy joins us from Memphis, Tennessee. She, of course, is the sister to Michael Orr in that famous movie, The Blind Side. You learned all about the family, and Collins joins us here on Sports Radio. Hi, Collins. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us, and I bet people are kind of driving around listening going, okay, wait a second. What does CollinsTuohy have to do with Washington State and Seattle and high school football? Well, I kind of put I'll put a brief connection together and then let you take on it. Randy Novak, who's been our executive producer for a long time on this show, has put together an organization called Shirts Across America that they send kids over to New Orleans and rebuild homes. They've been doing it for quite a few years now, and so that's kind of his passion, and he has put together a kicking off party every October, and he's had some very, very famous names come in and be guest speakers. He told me a few years ago, he's like, yeah, I got this great artist that's coming in to do a song and to speak. And I was like, yeah, what's his name? His name is Macklemore. And I go, I never heard of him. So those are the kind of names he's brought in. And he's brought in another big name, somebody that I think is very familiar. CollinsTuohy joins us. So how did you hook up with Shirts Across America and with Randy, and why you're coming out here to Seattle?
You know, they reached out to our family's foundation, knowing our connections to New Orleans. A lot of people aren't familiar with it, but my dad is actually born and raised in New Orleans. And New Orleans is about a 5-hour drive from where Michael and I went to school, and where my parents went to school at Ole Miss. So we were heavily affected by Katrina in kind of every capacity, not only from New Orleans, but swinging all the way down through the coast of Mississippi. So I think, you know, it's because it hit so close to home for us, and because we were so relatable to what these kids are trying to do. We get it. I get it. I see it every day. And it is not something that's taken lightly. And the fact that these are teenagers that are like standing up and saying, we can do something for somebody else, and we're going to make this happen in the city of New Orleans, I think it's nothing short of miraculous.
And I think what we see, and this is a driving home part every time we have one of these kickoff ceremonies, this one will be at Seattle Prep coming up on Tuesday, is that I think the general public just thinks, oh yeah, Katrina, that was a long time ago. I mean, New Orleans is probably much better off now than it was beforehand. All the rebuilding's been done. There's no more work to be done. That couldn't be further from the truth, could it?
It actually couldn't be further from the truth. New Orleans is recovering. I'm not saying that they are not making a comeback from Katrina, but the amount of people that have evacuated that have not been given the opportunity to come back, basically for economic reasons, are vast. And they want to come home. They want to come home to New Orleans. And if we have the opportunity, my family, Shirts Across America, these kids that are getting involved with it, if we have an opportunity to impact, you know, their situation on getting back home, then we need to step up and do it. And I think it's one of those things where it's about helping your neighbor out. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds so silly saying that from Seattle all the way down to New Orleans is your neighbor, but in the United States of America, we all should be thinking about it that way. You know, we all need to be kind of joining hands and being a full force for, you know, the person that's on either side of us. And I think they really have it going on with this.
CollinsTuohy is joining us. You know her if you saw the movie Blind Side, and judging by the $300 million that it earned at the box office, probably most of the people listening saw the movie Blind Side, particularly that those people that are listening are fans of high school football, fans of football in general, and a lot of that story was about you growing up with Michael and the whole high school process. Maybe tell me something about the aftermath of the movie, maybe something that is the most positive part of being featured in a movie, your life story being featured in a movie, and maybe what was a downside about your life story being featured in a blockbuster movie?
I certainly don't think, in retrospect, that there is a downside. I mean, and I think one of the things that people, ask us, and I definitely will touch on this during my speech,
Mm-hmm.
is this accurate? Is it not? How did your family feel about this all going on around you? And Michael states it so eloquently, saying that if there's one child or one person that has been positively affected by this movie that now 400-500 million, probably more than that now that's on international, have seen, then that one child is enough to make us want to do it all over again. And we kind of live by that motto. And on top of all of these wonderful stories that we've now been able to hear because of the movie, it's given us an absolute phenomenal platform to be able to go out into our communities and kind of say, look, we are not asking you to do what we did, and we are not asking you to use us as an example. But what we are saying is that there's something that you can do for somebody else. And I'm really going to touch heavily on that. And it flows so well with what Shirts Across America is trying to do, because that's what they're saying. They're saying that these huge projects are amazing. We all love them. It's part of it. But the one person that signs up for Shirts Across America, that person's going to make an impact. And if I can affect one person into doing that, then my job's done.
And you're doing that, not just words. I mean, you're doing it in actions. Tell us a little bit about the Making It Happen Foundation that your family's created since that movie.
So it's very simply the name. I mean, we have been put in a situation where people want to donate financially, and they want to be able to support things that we're doing because they themselves aren't exactly sure what to do, or they want us to plug them in an area of their community, and we kind of do all of the above. But what we do is make it happen. I mean, we do not believe in money sitting in the bank. If it comes in, it goes out. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we like to let people know exactly what they've made happen. And we do all kinds of things, from inner city sports ministry to making sure we have a Bible study that we feed the kids every week. And let me tell you what, if you feed them, we have learned that lesson. And all the way up to helping finalize adoptions and finalizing community center build-outs. And it's really everything in between. And then all the way back down to donating coats and tennis shoes and just, very random acts of kindness. But we are about making it happen. And that is what we have set out to do with the foundation, is to plug people in and help them make it happen.
Final minute with CollinsTuohy from Memphis, Tennessee. You know her and her family story if you saw the movie The Blind Side. And, one of my favorite parts of that movie, one of my favorite themes of that movie is the whole thing starts with the generosity of you and your family, of your mom and your dad, and the generosity of doing something for someone else. And yet, in the end, you guys reaped such a reward and such a benefit based upon the earlier generosity that you showed to Michael. Maybe talk a little bit about that transformation, where I'm sure it was tough at first for you guys to bring somebody in like this that was so, from a culture so foreign to yours, and yet what you got out of it in the end.
If you want to know the answer to that question, you need to come hear me speak.
Okay, I'll be there on Tuesday. I'm emceeing the thing.
I'm going to touch heavily on the act of giving and how it has completely changed my family's life.
That sounds great, and we cannot wait to hear you at Seattle Prep on Tuesday. And if you want people, if people want their students, their high school students, to be a part of something great like Shirts Across America, all they need to do is go to shirtsacrossamerica.org. All the information is there, and I know more and more families in the area are just clamoring to get their kids. I've got friends that are clamoring to get their kids involved in this, and there's only a finite amount of spots. I mean, this is only a big enough, so big a group, so it's been absolutely phenomenal what Randy's been able to do, and we really thank you for joining in our efforts here.
I'm so glad to be a part of it.
All right, we'll see you next week, all right?
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
You bet, not a problem. CollinsTuohy joining us here on Sports Radio 950 KJR, and yes, I'm really happy to be a part of it. I've been emceeing the event for Shirts Across America now for, 4 or 5 years or so. And just the names that Randy Novak has brought in, I still chuckle when I think of the first time I ever heard the name Macklemore was from Randy. He was like, yeah, I got this. The kids love this guy. This guy named Macklemore. He's a local artist. He's trying to make it big. And, when you hear local artists trying to make it big, you're like, okay, cool. I mean, good luck to him. I mean, how many times do you hear local artists trying to make it big, and now he's the biggest thing in the country when it comes to music? That's going to be Tuesday night. It's going to be great to be a part of that. When we come back, we'll talk a little big game of the night. Can somebody knock off number 1 Bellevue? Glacier Peak got their chance tonight. We'll find out about it from Colin Caruso next on Sports Radio 950 KJO.